Hi friends, welcome back to Brilliant Blue Reviews. My name is Heather, and in this video I'm going to be giving you my review of the movie Eleanor the Great. Okay, the first thing I've got to do before I forget them is I've got to get these names out here while they're fresh in my mind. So this movie was directed by Scarlett Johansson, and it stars June Squibb as Eleanor. I forgot it already. Kellyanne. Darn it, I forgot her name already. Who is a revelation, this young actress who is so terrific. I'm going to have to look up her name and put it on the bottom. Chiwetel Ejiofor, I hope I'm saying his name right, who you probably recognize. He was in 12 Years a Slave. Very good actor. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. And, oh, shoot. Again, can't think of her name. Jessica Hecht, I think. She played Susan on Friends. So she was Ross's first ex-wife, Carol's new wife. Because if you watched Friends, the show, you know that Ross and his wife, Carol, got divorced because she realized that she was a lesbian, and she ended up falling in love and then eventually marrying this other woman, Susan. And the actress who played Susan, who I have seen in other things, and she's actually a very good actress, she plays Eleanor's daughter in this movie. And I haven't seen her in anything for a while, so it was kind of neat to see her. And those were the main cast. And then there was another actress whose name I didn't catch. Again, I'll have to put it down here at the bottom, who played Bessie, Elizabeth, Eleanor's best friend. She's a very significant character as well. So I had never really heard of this movie until just maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm filming this on Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. Now, I saw a short just today or yesterday of Scarlett Johansson being interviewed at, I think, one of the showings or premiere of this movie, and she said that June Squibb, the actress, was already attached to the movie when Scarlett Johansson received the script. So she didn't have any say in her casting, but she was absolutely perfect in the role. And Scarlett Johansson was saying that she thought June Squibb did a phenomenal job in the role of Eleanor. The movie is dedicated, you'll see at the very end of the credits, it's dedicated to a woman. And I mentioned to my daughter, who went to the movie with me, that I had read that that was the woman's name who it's dedicated to was Scarlett Johansson's grandmother. And she said that Eleanor, the character of Eleanor, reminded her a lot of her grandmother in certain ways. This is a drama. It has quite a few funny moments, actually, usually from things that the character of Eleanor says. She's very witty and can be kind of a little bit mean in her humor sometimes, but she's also very lovable. She's a very interesting character. So the basic premise of the movie is Eleanor is a 94-year-old widow who has retired to Florida. Now, Megan, my daughter, and I, who she's a senior in college, I'm actually here visiting my daughter at college right now, and knew that we were going to have time to go to a movie, and she likes it when I come and take her to movies to give her a break from her studies. And we were looking at movies that come out here in the Twin Cities that don't necessarily come out at our local movie theater at home. And I gave her a choice between this and The Lost Bus. And so she looked at both of them and she said, Mom, I think The Lost Bus, she doesn't like scary, intense type stuff like that. So I'm actually going to see The Lost Bus tomorrow. So stay tuned, because I will be doing a review of that movie. But she decided she wanted to see this one. She did not realize, in seeing the preview and everything, it had to do with the Holocaust. Sort of. That's a very significant topic to Megan. First of all, our middle school in our hometown does a very good big unit on the Holocaust with the kids in, I want to say it's like 7th or 8th grade. And then very significant to my daughter Megan, who I think I've mentioned before, she and I have both a lot of experience with theater acting. And Megan played the role of Eva Geringer Schloss, who is, as far as I know, still alive. And she is a Holocaust survivor. And the play, And Then They Came for Me, is based on her life and her experience. And my daughter Megan actually played a young Eva Geringer-Schloss in the play, and then they came for me, and she did an absolutely phenomenal job. That was probably my very favorite role that my daughter Megan, she's done 30, 40 some productions in theater, and that was probably my favorite role. It's kind of a multimedia piece, like young Eva, played by my daughter, would talk to older senior citizen Eva, like on a screen, and like, you know, talk to each other. It's an interesting play if you ever get a chance to see a production of it. But anyway, so Megan had to learn a lot about the Holocaust from that play, from playing someone who lived through it. And so this movie was especially meaningful to her when she realized that there was this whole thing about the Holocaust in it. We've been to both California and Florida many times, and instantly Megan and I recognized that what they were calling Florida was filmed in California. It was filmed in Southern California. We recognized it right away. And even if you looked in the credits, it said the California unit. They didn't film any of it in Florida. So they're saying that these two women lived in Florida, but it was obviously filmed in both Southern California, probably Los Angeles area. I actually recognized it as one of the beaches going out to Malibu on the Pacific Coast Highway because my son and I were just there like a month ago. And then they filmed it in New York City. The majority of the movie takes place in New York City. So the main character of Eleanor, what you find out is that she lived in New York City. She and her best friend, Bessie, both lived in New York City with their husbands. They apparently have both at some point retired, both couples retired to Florida. And while they were living in Florida, your understanding is that both husbands passed away at some point. And so the two women, Eleanor and Bessie, are living together now and have lived together for, I think they said 11 years. And they're very close. And they do everything together, and they're just adorable, you know, lovely widowed friends living together and sharing their life together. They have a really neat routine, and they stay very active and everything, even though they're in their 90s. A little bit of a spoiler here. Sadly, fairly quickly at the beginning of the movie, Bessie dies. Eleanor can't or doesn't want to stay in their apartment in Florida anymore by herself, and probably isn't really capable of living on her own. And so she moves back to New York City and moves in with her daughter and her grandson. It's not entirely clear if the grandson actually lives there or he's in college. So she's staying in his room, but I think he's away at school most of the time, like maybe living in a dorm or something, because he's only there once in a while. And they're Jewish. It was very obvious that Bessie was Jewish. She was from Poland originally. What happens is Eleanor's daughter, Lisa, signs her up for a class at the Jewish Community Center in West Manhattan, East or West or wherever they live. And she goes to take this class, and it's something with music. And when she goes in and peeks in, she doesn't really interested in what they're doing. And she sees this other lady standing in the hall, and they get to talking. And the other lady thinks she's there for the thing that lady's there for, which is a Holocaust survivor support group. And Eleanor goes in thinking she doesn't know what this is. That's kind of how it gets started. There's a young woman there who is there as part of an assignment or a paper that she's doing for her journalism class in college. She's a sophomore in college. And then you find out that her dad, who's played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, his name is something Davis. I can't remember anybody's names right now. I'm sorry. And he's a famous newscaster. He's a journalist that's on TV that both Eleanor and Bessie really liked. And his wife passed away a few months prior. I think at the beginning they say it was like 6 months ago. And by the end of the movie, it was like 8 months ago. And so this is over a period of months. And Eleanor and this young woman form a friendship. And it kind of develops from there. And one of the things that happens is Eleanor decides that since she never got to have a bat mitzvah when she was young, that she decides she's going to have a bat mitzvah. And so that's a big part of the plot of the movie and everything. And so it's kind of a combination of, there's a lot of stuff going on actually. There's the relationship between Eleanor and her daughter, which is kind of interesting dynamic. There's this friendship between Eleanor and the young woman. There's the relationship with her and her dad and them dealing with the grief of her losing her mother and him losing his wife. And there's the grief that Eleanor's experiencing from losing her best friend that she lived with for so long. And the desire to form new friendships even though she's really, really old. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on with all these different relationships. And there's some really interesting stuff about the Jewish faith. It was really a lovely, very touching movie. And I'm sad to say we were the only people there in the theater. Now, granted, this was in a suburban Twin Cities movie theater on a Wednesday night. So it's not that surprising that we were the only people in there. But it was just such a lovely, well-done movie. One of those that I'm a little afraid not very many people are going to get to see. And it really deserves to be seen. I got a little teary at 1 or 2 points. Megan was all out crying. She was very affected by it and really touched by the movie and just really thought it was well done. So we both give it a 5 out of 5. This movie, like I said, did not come out where we live. So unless you live in a bigger urban area, I think it's going to be difficult for you to get to see this movie in theaters. I don't necessarily think it's not the type of movie that you would have to see in a theater. Fairly intimate drama. So, if you don't get a chance to see it in theaters, it's not the end of the world. But I would definitely try to catch it on streaming eventually when it comes to streaming, because it was really a well-done movie. And I think that it's going to definitely be in contention for some awards during the awards season. So either the Golden Globes or the SAG Awards or the Oscars maybe even. So it was really well done. I'm glad we got a chance to see it. And especially since we hadn't even heard about it. Megan had never even heard of it before today, and I only heard about it for the first time like 2 or 3 days ago. I would highly recommend Eleanor the Great if you are interested in a good drama, and really for anyone of any age, because it really touched on, I'm in my 50s, my daughter is in her 20s. We both liked it just as much. I think it would be very impactful for even any adult, really. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that it was helpful to you. If you liked it, please be sure to give me a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming movie reviews. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.